Hey everyone, welcome back. We are questioning constructs. I'm Rebecca.
What's going on, y'all? I'm John.
All right, John, what do we got today?
Hey, what's going on, people? Last time we were here, we were trying to get to what your topic was, which is good news, right? Something along the lines of good news. I don't remember the particulars,
Yeah.
but didn't really get to address it in full. So I said I was going to come up with a list of good news over the course of the week. I did not do that. Um,
Okay.
so I didn't. Instead, I bought a cat wheel and I built it, and I got major blisters on my hand, and I got sick again. Yay!
Did she use it though?
No, she's a scaredy cat. So
Aw.
I'm trying to ease her in, but once I do have her using it, I'll make sure to send videos your way so you can see.
Yes.
But that said, I did not find or go looking really for a list of articles, or not articles, but just like headline news type things. I actually stopped while I was frantically searching today because I knew we were going to be recording. I stopped after I actually found a really cool website, and so just wanted to kind of give an overview of the website that I thought was pretty cool. It's called goodnewsnetwork.org.
Oh,
Um, so in my search for news articles, I did the standard good news in 2024, the last year, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last, whatever, right? In order to see if I can find like big things. But one of the I guess the troubles is something that I mentioned last week, which is perspective plays a really big role in what news is good. What news is good for one person may not be anything to another. And so I kind of wanted to take a look at that a little more, as well as just go over some of these headlines, because I did say I was going to come up with a list of stuff, and while I didn't technically come up with a list of stuff, I found a website that hosts a lot of interesting news. A lot of these articles were posted within the last couple of days, so I'm just going to read through a couple of headlines that we may find interesting. Let me go ahead and start. I want to make sure I'm on page one of this because there are pages. I'm not.
that's
I'm on
actually
page three.
not that I was really thinking about it, but that's really cool that there's a website that their whole purpose is just spreading good news.
Not
That's
only
really
that, but I
cool.
think they've been here for years. I think they've been in the oh, your mustache.
I
Um,
know.
yeah, they've been in the game for like, I want to say over a decade, like 12 years, I think. I was seeing something along those
That's
lines.
awesome.
So, just going over some of the quick, catchy headlines that I see here. New wearable cuff rewires brains of stroke patients by stimulating nerves. That's epic. That's really
I
freaking
think
cool.
yeah, it is. I think I saw something on that too where may or may not have been the same thing, but someone was demonstrating walking. No, I think there's something similar, but for Parkinson's, where it's like a cuff or like something you put on your head or like on certain places on your body, and it gives you like micro shocks so that it
Oh,
controls the
that's
tremors.
interesting.
So you're able to walk and do different motor skills. I think it's so cool.
I know one of the big news in kind of my sector of interest was having uh, again, forgive me, I'm a little sick, so my brain is not all here. There's a microchip that was recently implanted. Um, I think Elon Musk has something to do with the company. where he's giving people the ability to kind of interact with the internet in a new way. And I think I even went as far as going onto the website of the company that was doing this implanting, because as I've said in the past, and I'm very serious about it, given the opportunity, I am ready to fracture myself on the internet. Um, and I'm very real about that. So I went looking to see if I could potentially sign up, and they only got signups for peoples with disabilities of varying degrees. And
Really?
so
I
there's
didn't know it
there's
was. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
priority there. Oh no,
That's
go ahead.
cool. I didn't know it was people with disabilities.
Specifically, right now they have priority, um, and so I mean the first implant was with somebody. I think, what was it? He couldn't. He had some major disability that uh, really hit. I don't. I forget what specifically if it affected. This is so easy to look up. To I'm sure if I took like half a second to find it, I would. But like he's out there playing video games and stuff now, where like he couldn't hold a controller before, and
That's
like
awesome.
he's performing like better than what regular people do, because what he's finding is that the microchip makes the connection so fast that sometimes it makes a connection between what he wants to do before he realizes he wants to do it,
Wow.
which obviously super super big competitive advantage when it comes to like online video games and stuff. um, SpaceX lands its rocket on a dime, so it can be
Yes.
reused and launched back into orbit. I did hear about this in the past, them working towards this, but it looks like they've knocked it out. Again, I'm cherry picking headlines, so do your own
If
research. Who
um
knows?
if you haven't seen any of the videos on that, it's actually pretty impressive watching this rocket that's just like pummeling the earth, and then the boosters kick in, and then it like if this is the stand it's supposed to land on, right? It's coming in about right here, but then it angles itself and then slides it. It was so
That's
impressive to
pretty
see.
sick. I haven't seen
Yeah.
haven't seen it quite yet, but that does sound really impressive. Girl submits a drawing to a playground, or excuse me, girl submits a drawing to upgrade playground for little kids, and the city hall went and built it. It's pretty good
Aw,
news right there. That's
that's
very
awesome.
cute. Something that this makes me think of is the fact that apparently it's very, very easy to take part in a political party in the United States. It's super easy to do so, and it gives people more power over their communities than they realize. Something that I forget where I was watching this, so again, take this all with a grain of salt. But eh, it is very simple to go to town hall, make recommendations, or vote against things. And because so few people actually participate in our political process, it's you'd be surprised how easy it is to kind of take advantage or make use of a political party. Look it up. I don't know. Super cool. I've been thinking
So
more and more about taking part in political parties and actually figuring how I can better contribute to society. So yeah,
that's pretty cool. I didn't well, I guess town halls aren't because you see the signs sometimes, like, at least around in this area, there's a lot of land that goes up, and you'll see like a posting like meeting on this land X date.
there are
Um,
so many stories out there of like a group of like five people, one person really interested in a thing, and they bring
mhm,
four friends to vote
mhm,
against something like a new Arby's being built over some
mhm,
certain land, and all of a
mhm,
sudden this company cannot build on this land
mhm.
because they were the only five people to come. There aren't really other people who are like go Arby's. So it's like It's surprising, how little it takes to be effective within the
Mhm.
political process. A lot of people like to think of the political process as something that's very, what would be the word? Very uh, confusing, and people like to think of it as something that obfuscates a lot of information and ability to do things within government. But I think it's just a matter of knowledge, what people are actually aware of their ability to do. These new news headlines run our brains so much, so it's easy to look at politics and be like, oh man, our vote doesn't mean anything. Meanwhile, somebody's going to a town hall right now and making a major decision within their community. And because they were one of 15 people to show up, they have a lot of power. Um, so
Yeah,
look into it. It's good stuff.
interesting too. It
Go
reminds
ahead.
me, I think it was California. There's a guy that some of his videos, I forget whether he runs like a TikTok or a YouTube channel, but like he goes to those meetings and he'll present like ridiculous bills like I want a water park uh on like this plot of land, and then people are like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Well, like by these statutes, like you have to let me speak if I'm here or if I have a bill to present or et cetera, et cetera." So yeah, maybe you are way more versed in politics and all of that than I am. So, maybe it is a lot easier than what the average person would think to get involved and have an actual voice.
I also think it's just a good way to be a little more grounded within your community. If you
Mm,
get to vote at town hall, chances are you're a little more interested in who your neighbor is. And I think it helps root us in a way that we've been uprooted by the internet.
hmm
Um, but personal opinion there. These bird feeders have onboard cameras that deliver close up and live streaming of feathered friends. And it's just bird feeders with literally just cameras built into them, front facing, where the actual seeds would be, in order to see like the birds just eating seeds. I think that's cool. I don't know if you've ever put on like those 7-hour YouTube videos where you just have nature running in the background. I know I'm guilty of that. I've also put something like that on for cat. And so I think this is really cool, and it's something that I might be interested in for myself.
I think um there's a story that one reminds me of, but one of the one I will share. So my nephew, his very first word was bird. He would say
Oh,
bird. And so for Christmas one year, I got him this little one of the stick-ons, the suction cup bird feeders, and it was clear. And so they put it up on the window so he could watch the birds, and he was so excited. It's the cutest little thing. Like we think that growing old is watching birds. No, birds are for all ages.
what was your first word?
Oh,
Do you know?
no. Probably mom or
You think?
dad. I think that's what I've been told.
My first word was pan, which in Spanish is bread, which definitely is why I'm the weight that I am.
Stop.
Um, I absolutely love starch, man. It's good stuff. I'm gonna make some pasta tonight, along with this flu medicine. Okay. Next, scientists
Wait, wait,
showed.
wait, wait. How was your first word a Spanish word though? Did you just grow up
I'm I'm Puerto Rican.
oh yeah, I guess that's
You
yeah.
guess? What do you mean? My grandmother only
Well,
speaks Spanish.
Okay, your grandmother. There we go. Because I was like thinking back to the times I've like been with your family, and I'm like, no one really speaks any Spanish.
Have you really been like I don't have so I've spent time with your family. Have you
Hmm.
spent time with mine?
Yeah, only a few times though.
I don't
Um,
remember.
when you lived in Urbana, I came over once or twice, and
That's
then
impressive. My memories of Urbana is never being allowed out of the house and never
wait, you don't
allowing
remember
people in the house.
trick or treating?
I remember that, but that was with my sisters.
No, 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 no. The one trick or treating where it was we got like a huge group of high school people together.
Yeah,
You were the serial killer. You had the
yeah.
box with the knife and the
I had an axe in the middle of the box. I was taking my
yeah,
sister's trick or treating. We got everybody together and went around the neighborhood.
yeah,
It was good. Urbana is a good spot for good candy.
yeah.
Good candy.
Oh, those big candy bars, yeah. But yeah, and then
Um,
California. Oh, and then
I might remember
PA.
California. I don't
California, I
remember
hung out
PA.
with them on the and you on the beach.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then Philadelphia, I drove you from the airport to
Was that the beach we
wherever.
saw dolphins?
Did we? Maybe we did.
Ah, maybe. I don't remember.
I just remember
Okay.
sitting in the sand and your mom being, "I love California. Oh, it's so
Okay. Yeah.
gorgeous."
You have been around them. That's true. Um, Scientists show fungi are mind blowing. We already knew that, but they have memories. They learn shapes and can make decisions and solve problems. I
How do
find this
you figure that out?
particularly. Um, I find this particularly well. We knew this to a degree, right? Like we've
Yeah,
talked in the last episode about that Japanese kind of what's the word
the moss.
yeah, that story of the I want to say it was like mycelial fungi or something like that. That figured out the quickest path to the nutrients, which in turn gave the idea for the routes to build train
Hmm.
stations. So we know fungi are good at solving problems. I think this is particularly interesting that uh, in regards to living computers, actually. One of the things that I think we may have spoken about that I think is super freaking cool is the fact that there are scientists out there who are blending different types of mushrooms, fungi, and computers, creating fungal. What would you call it? Fungal networking,
We'll go processing.
maybe
No.
fungal processing, maybe. But basically, they're using fungi almost as the memory on a functional computer. So they're like quite literally spraying like the hardware down with a bunch of fungi in order to like actually make connections between different pieces of the hardware. Super freaking cool. The idea that fungus may be in our computer system sometime in the future because it's there's more information that they can process. Apparently, potentially better than chips themselves. Super interesting, super weird. Encourage you to look it up because that's a strange one that I'm not doing justice at all.
I heard of that one. Because that one I think they were doing, I mean, quite a few years ago they had started in that, but I don't think I ever looked it up and I always wondered like how are mushrooms going to survive in there without, if you've ever seen a laptop that has a bloated battery, I just imagine the same concept that eventually the fungi is going to grow to be, the encasement's going to be too small for the fungi.
I feel like the article I read was talking about working prototypes. I don't know how effective those prototypes are, but it seems
Mm.
like some um, some developments have been made in the field. It's just an interesting field, and you know um, it, like think about a world where mushrooms can work as the processing power, be you know for our computers and such.
Mhm.
um it would probably do wonders for our environment potentially, right?
Mhm.
If we don't have to have these factories that are manufacturing chips, and instead we're manufacturing fungus.
Yep.
um
Also, something interesting to think about on that note, why stop at fungi? So, for example, maybe fungi is where it starts, but there's so much about how nature functions that we still don't know or just beginning to know. Like, for example, um, take that one step further. Did you know that when trees die, they're not actually dead? Like, the surrounding trees will keep sending it nutrients to keep it alive. So potentially, like
oh, I
what
didn't
we
know that.
consider dead, the surrounding area is still feeding that tree or that organism. There's a really
It's
cool
interesting.
book. Yeah, I forget what the book's called, but it has a big tree on the front, and it had all these like really creative, unique stories about different people coming together over trees. But in it, it had a really creative way of speaking to a lot of research that we've learned about trees. Or, for example, if trees, if you have a line of trees and tree one gets hit by a pest or starts getting affected by something, it will send out like signals into the air and through the roots, the tree system, to warn tree 10. So by the time it gets to tree 10, they should have put up some defenses um towards that. So super interesting stuff. If fungi are the connectors, maybe what's stopping us for utilizing that same uh uh natural relationship that trees have for like battery power or just power to devices in
That'd be
general.
interesting if somebody can develop energy that's based on trees. I have no idea how any of it works, but I think, um, man, that would be crazy cool. Could you imagine like taking some bark and it like it powers your fucking your excuse me, I almost cursed. Your RC car or something. I don't know.
Excuse me, I
Like I'm
just
just
need a
gonna
bag
take.
of wood chips,
I
please.
need I need some sap. I'm feeling sappy.
Ooh, speaking of sap,
A
I know we're a little off topic, but did you know that um Canada has a stockpile the same way countries stock up on oil? They have a stockpile of maple syrup. And so
sounds
last
very
year,
Canadian.
well, last year was the first year they had to dip into their reserves because of
Oh
um
no, not the maple syrup.
yeah, not the maple syrup, but yeah, I guess they always have a stockpile because I mean, why not? Syrup, you
I,
know?
hey, I guess. Although I do want to try that maple syrup treat where it's like the leaf in maple syrup. I heard that was pretty good. Um,
Mm.
celebrated ocean liner is being turned into the world's largest artificial reef.
Ooh,
Um,
that's cool.
that's pretty interesting. I don't have many thoughts in regards to it. The biggest thought that comes to mind is I wonder what the offset is, like how much
Mhm.
damage to the ecosystem that ocean liner may have done, in comparison to, or and what good is going to be recovered from that, or
Yeah.
potentially like in the future how it could be something that evens out. Um, let's see. CBD from hemp kills mosquitoes, inflicting 100% mortality rate on pesticide resistant insects, which is great because
Ooh.
mosquitoes suck, and they wreak havoc on our ecosystems. They're pretty rough. Um, let's see, we've got another. Probably not that. Probably not that. These are like cool articles, but not necessarily like good news. This is kind of what kind of sparked my thought earlier. I came across this one. Mercury pollution from humane from human activities is declining, with a
Ooh.
10% drop in emissions. This is, I think, one of the inherent problems with gang use, and it kind of brings to the forefront like the topic that I'm really interested in amongst all of this, which is this is a headline, right? Mercury pollution from human activities is declining. Is that good or bad?
That one's a really iffy one for me because how do they measure it? Are they measuring it across the entire world? Is it just one area that it's dropping in? I
Here's
don't know.
here's my thought on it. I have no idea what this affects. I have no understanding of what bad comes out of mercury pollution. I have no understanding of what we utilize that may create mercury pollution that may be good or bad. I just don't have a real understanding of it. And
So
this is, go ahead.
I was gonna say for the environment, it's definitely very bad. Like, if you've ever heard of like mercury pollution in our seafood, like the
I've heard
mercury
of
content.
mercury with seafood, mercury
Yeah.
concentration with seafood. Yes.
So I think that not having read the article, I think that's what they're referencing to, like mercury, like metals, and which I don't know where those come from, but I mean it causes death. I think it has a huge effect on the reproductive systems of fish. It might even disrupt it enough to change the sexes of fish. Don't quote me on that one.
So um here's why I even bring this up, because I'm sure it is good news. But it brings to kind of a point some of the questions that I've been asking when it not necessarily questions, but maybe some of the statements that I've made in the past, which is taking something and running with it. I can go ahead and take this and say, look at this great news. It's on this good news network, and I can say it's obviously good news, but I have no real understanding why. And I think uh, I should take some time later and read the article in order to try and get a better understanding. But also, perspective, right? Like one of the things that I said earlier, and I've said in previous episodes about news and perspective, like who does this affect? So I see this article and I don't feel anything when I read it. And I know that in order to have a feeling on it, I'm going to have to dedicate some block of work to understand it. And that makes it difficult to interpret. That makes it difficult to want to go after it, which is something that I feel like good news could potentially suffer from. Sometimes news is really easy to understand. So things like this little girl wanted to make an upgrade to the park. She made a cute little picture. She sent it to City Hall. City Hall approved and went through with the upgrade, right? That's super digestible, and it's super easy to understand the good that comes out of it. The fact that the child, has to feel like they did something good. Maybe they don't fully understand that they did something good in their community, but they're seeing change that they made. Like that. That's something that they're gonna understand at a base level. I'm sure. I'm sorry for your mustache.
Oh
I'm sorry
no.
for your loss.
I know.
Um, but there's more complicated things in this world where I think sometimes it's tough to digest, especially quickly, which is why you should read articles, right? Because again, just looking at this headline, I don't have a feeling, but I have a feeling that if I did do some research, I would probably have an opinion on it. But yeah, uh,
So I have a question.
shoot.
Still trying to phrase it, but Do you think there's a point where doing research detracts from, like, let's just say you had an emotion of positivity towards that article. Do you think that there is a point where doing research will erode that feeling, and then the next time you go and see an article, you're not really going to want to research into it? I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, what's the level where research has an opposite effect on how you're feeling about something? It doesn't magnify it; it detracts from it. Have you
I think it
experienced that?
depends. I think it depends on your curiosity.
Mm,
I think that I think this Mercury one is a particularly interesting thing to point at,
mm,
because I know that I am absolutely not going to read this article. I know that I am not going to research the topic of Mercury and how it affects because I just don't have an interest in that sphere. But I also know that I'm not really going to talk about Mercury and how it affects the environment either. I don't have any curiosity lending itself towards that direction, and so there's no real interest to investigate. However, when it comes to things like video games, as an example, right? I'm interested in video game news, good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter if it's bad news or if it's good news. My curiosity is what kind of leads me to do more research, try to understand more, etc., etc. So, there's been plenty of bad news in the last couple of years with video games, right? Not one time has it ever deterred me from wanting to find out more about video games. I think video games are freaking awesome. And I think if you have a natural curiosity towards something, I'm not sure that any amount of news is going to detract you from wanting to find more information as long as you remain curious. I think the point it stops is when there's no wonder left for you. You're like, all right, I'm done. So like I think politics is another good example of this. Like the hole is deep in terms of what you can find out when it comes to politics and how you can function within the political spectrum, how people work, what are people trying to accomplish, what are they trying to do, all of that. A lot of people don't find interesting, right? So what happens? They see a news article about um, whatever the current candidate is doing this thing that they find disturbing, and that is a turnoff for them because there's no interest in the first place for politics. So they see this article and they're like, yeah, of course they're doing this. I don't like them. Of course they would be doing the thing that I don't like because I already don't like them, right? I think it's rare that you have somebody who's politically minded who sees a news article and is like, you know what, I'm done with politics forever. Because most of the time, even if they are bold enough to say, make a statement like that, chances are they're probably back on politics really quickly. It's like somebody who's addicted to Overwatch saying they're quitting. Give it a couple of months.
Something interesting that came up as a thought when you're talking about politics, and they see an article that, like, candidate so and so is doing this, like, oh, of course, because, like, I hate this candidate or whatever. Um, what we haven't also touched on is how we are now guided by social media in different directions that it thinks we want to go. And so I think that's also something to really keep in mind and um challenge sometimes by actually searching out things, because I've noticed, like, I'll just speak something and then like 20 minutes later my phone, like, ads will be shown that are like that. So you have to also kind of be conscious in this day and age of, like, what you're saying is going to dictate in social media, or what you're searching, it's going to show you more of the same, because a lot of things are algorithm based now. So if you find that your world is particularly skewed one way or the other, could be good news, could be bad news, Um, I think that's something to
So
also keep in mind.
I slightly disagree with
Mm.
that, but only slightly. I think everything I you know what? I just feel like the online landscape is a little more insidious than that, and we don't often realize it. I think that people often find things that they're interested in, and it kind of leads you down a pipeline, right? But I don't know, or I'm not confident that the pipeline leads you to more things that you like as much as it does lead you to more things that other people want you to be led to. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I agree with you, but I think we're talking about two slightly different ways that the algorithms run. For example, and this is something interesting. I have an Android phone, and I'm hardly ever active on social media. I don't really post past like I have my YouTube channel and my Instagram, which are all like business. It's on a business account, so it doesn't really even count because it's not trying to show you stuff. Past like, hey, buy this advertising. But for my personal accounts, it doesn't really show me a whole lot. But what I have noticed is if I go into my phone and actually physically search something, then it will start showing me stuff. But the difference now, I've also noticed if you have an Apple and an iPhone, it is way more sensitive at picking up things that you are saying. So, comparing me to one of my roommates, because we've even run experiments where we'll verbally say something, the phone is off, and 20 minutes later, it'll show up on one of our phones. Most of the time, it was the iPhone. So I don't know if that's just Apple has more of a listening ear or technology, or if it's more that person's way more active on social media than I am. But time and time again, it happened. So I do agree with you. Like if you're online, I think there are things that try and pull you a certain direction. Um, but there's also the other side of it where there's things running that you might not necessarily be aware of that's taking what you're inputting, whether it's verbal voice data, um, things you physically search, and then giving you more of it because it's like, oh, you've searched this, you're talking about this must be important to you. So I think it could go either way for sure.
All right, so looking at the next article, going back to good news before I go down a rabbit hole of my feelings about tech and online sector. Painting found in Italian villa excuse me, I can't read. Painting found in Italian villa basement turns out to be original Picasso. See,
Mm.
easy to digest. Absolutely good news. This famous artist who has passed away. We're finding more of his work out there in Italy. I think that's pretty wild. Actually, that is pretty wild. English couple quit their jobs to travel 4 years around the world in van, becoming social media stars. I feel like we've seen a lot of that pop up
Yeah.
over the course of the last couple of years. Visiting the gym today could trigger a bright idea next week's new study show, which I don't think that's
What?
really new news. Do you think it's new?
I mean, it's more of like there's so many factors that go into what could trigger an idea like that. Like how that would be one I'd have to actually read the article before I pass judgment. But it, how are you connecting those two? Is
Here's my feeling on it and why I think it's kind of old news, not new news.
mm,
Healthy mind, healthy body, or healthy
yeah,
body, healthy mind, I think is
mm-hmm,
the phrase. The fact of the matter is, people who are in a healthier disposition, who do take the time to take care of themselves, are more successful in
mm-hmm.
their livelihoods on a broad spectrum across the world. I think there are multiple studies of this that are out there. I think you can throw a rock and find a study, in regards to how if you yourself are healthier, you're placing your mind in a disposition to also be healthy. And I
Yeah.
think if you have a healthy mind, you're probably more inclined. I don't know what the percentage is, but even if it's just a little bit, you're probably more inclined to more interesting thoughts, right? Like that. It's that can-do attitude that may lead you somewhere. You may be the baker who is like, man, I just want to go ahead and figure out how to sort this bread, and all of a sudden you make award-winning MRI equipment. Like, yeah, healthy body, healthy mind. New evidence near mysterious carvings show Persians may have escaped to Madagascar for religious freedom. I wish I read
What?
that beforehand, but that's really interesting.
That's
Um,
wild. Persians.
Here's a easy to digest. Here's the thing: if you were to ask me where I could locate old where Persians resided, on a map, geography is not really my strong suit. So I apologize to all of you Persians out there who have strong history that I'm not quite aware of. Um, Dog sits down in middle of road unmoving until officer follows to save her owner. That's cute. Uh, Love animals saving owners. That's pretty fire, but maybe that's very onerous of me as a fellow pet owner. Here's one that you're going to be interested in, and this is one that I wanted to get to because I think you would get a kick out of it. Scientists grow tree from 1,000-year-old seed found in cave. May be lost medicinal plant in the Bible.
That's cool. That's
I
cool.
thought you'd get a kick out of that. Finding herbs spoken of in the Bible, I think, is pretty wild, especially if it's like a type of plant that we don't actively, tend to these days.
Uh-huh.
I think that'd be cool. That's an
You,
interesting story. That might
you
be
know what I
worth
always think
looking up.
about? Going back to your is it good news or bad, or like is it in what context is it good news? Um there's the seed bank where they keep different seeds and, DNA. I don't know what else they store, but in case like there's something that ever affects the entire world, they have all of these seeds and other things that, you can start again from. So I always think about that and I wonder like,
Oh,
you know,
you know what? I have heard of this place. It's like the
yeah.
Library of Seeds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
you can just go and they have almost every
Right.
seed known to man. That's,
Yep.
yeah.
And they're keeping them and maybe I always assume that maybe they're growing certain ones to harvest more seeds or just keep the seeds fresh. I don't exactly know what they do. I'm sure that they probably freeze some of it, but at what point do the seeds lose their vitality and you want to keep that going? But that's what makes me think of too, like how many seeds are they finding in this permafrost or in the Arctic or these other places where they're finding like the woolly mammoths or other things buried in the ice? Like how much of that are they germinating to see what happens? And how does that then affect the world if that gets introduced again back into society? Like I don't know if this seed bank also has land that they're planting these things on. Would be interesting.
New fabric inspired by squid is leading to temperature controlled clothing. I think that is super freaking cool.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Temperature controlled clothing is pretty wild. I think that would be amazing. 72 sunny with a light breeze. If I can get that in, jeans and a shirt, I'd be happy. Let's see. Stunning job growth adds 250K as wages rise 4% and violent crime continues dramatic drop across the US. That is amazing news. But this is, I think this is really interesting because if you were to ask in our political atmosphere, if you know, things within our employment, or U.S. Employment is good, I think you'd hear a lot of negative opinions, even though we're doing really great. I think, in general, we're outpacing most of our first world counterparts across the world. Like the U.S. is
Mhm.
doing fantastically in comparison to majority of the world. But there's a lot of negative feelings around the U.S. about all of this. Violent crime dropping. I, I mean, when's the last time you heard that in a news article?
Actually, the first thing that always comes to mind with that, I think we were either in 8th grade or like ninth, 10th grade. And I remember an article coming out about Baltimore. Now, if anyone doesn't know about Baltimore,
It
so
used to be
Washington, D.C. is our
bad.
capital, and Baltimore is a city that's a little bit north of DC, but it's known for crime, specifically like shootings and stabbings. And I remember one year, one summer, an article came out, like headline news, guys, where it said, um, so far this year, we've only had 11 stabbings,
It's pretty
down
good.
from like 500 one year to now 400, like 350. And I'm like, oh my
It's
gosh.
pretty wild. That is pretty wild.
Oh.
Miracle twins given 10% chance of survival are now thriving thanks to hero medics. Pretty wild.
Hmm.
I wonder why they were in danger of death.
I think, um, Victoria, but so I have a friend, Victoria, and she gave birth to twins, and she was telling me that in the US, if you are going to have twins, it's an automatic C-section to save the babies.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting though. Like it's not
Yeah, I
something
never thought about it.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it definitely makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
my big head was a C section, so I imagine if there were two of me, well, oof. Um, People happy with their lives are less likely to suffer heart attack or stroke. Um, I was gonna make a really dark joke there, but I'm gonna leave it alone. Happy news only. Uh, uh, Goat named Mr. Joshua runs last 4K of local marathon, winning medal and local adoration. It's
That's
cute.
funny.
It's cute AF. Cute
There's a
AF.
there's a duck that would run 5Ks too. I don't remember
To
what
the
its name
very
is
next
though.
day, bum bum
Yes.
bum bum ba-dum.
And then he walked
Strange
up to the lemonade
rock.
stand.
Yes, said to the man running the stand. Hey, strange rock found on Mars with zebra markings has NASA scientists excited. Very
Interesting.
interesting. I think this year there was supposed to be a trip to the moon, a lunar expedition, for the first time since forever for the
Mhm.
U.S., which is pretty wild.
I don't know if it
Um,
actually happened though.
I don't either. I just heard through the grapevine. So some of this news makes it to us because we like have like little whisperings of some of this stuff. Um, let's see. Is there anything else that like just really pops out in the immediate couple of seconds? No, I'm gonna leave it. A previously unknown Mozart song discovered in German library after 200 years. I'll leave it there. That
What?
is wild. That's wild. And more
How?
of this historical music is pretty cool. Doesn't really pertain to me. I'm not like crazy interested in it. I do have like slight interest in classical music. I really like Chopin.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't. Yeah, can't really speak to it, but really cool to hear. Um, yeah, that was just reading through a couple of pages of, again, this website, Good News Network. Looks like there's just a lot, and I think those stories go through October 1st. So that was
Wow.
16 days worth of good news, and we didn't go all the way through October 1st. But what's really cool about this, not to like be a promoter for them because I don't know these people, but it is interesting that they have this collection. Um, you can choose what type of news you're looking for, which I think really, really helps. Because,
That's
like I
cool.
said, perspective and what you're actually interested in will drive your willingness to actually read a full article. Look at the sources. They have a bunch of different categories from gardening all the way to business to podcasts, science, laughs, animals, inspirational stories, world news. Really cool website. You guys should absolutely check it out. And I'm going to keep it in the back of my head for days that I'm feeling down. Just go on, find some cute article about cats saving their owners, and that'll lift me up.
Honestly, that was a pretty good website. I mean, there were quite a few articles that I would have clicked on myself. Um,
Yeah, there are definitely some that caught my interest that I did click on for myself. One of those being the seed. I thought that was a pretty cool article.
what else did they say
That's
about it? Why do they think it's
um,
from the Bible?
so I didn't get all the way through it, so I don't want to speak on it.
Mm,
But I did, at the very least, click on it. I just haven't gotten all the way through.
mm.
Um, and by that I mean very specifically, I went through the first paragraph, y'all. So I'm just being honest. I think being realistic about the information I got, but um, they were really just reintroducing that the headline itself. But I think it's a good, potentially a good resource. I can't speak to whether it's a good resource or not because, again, the thing we warn you of is exactly what I did for today specifically, which is I just bulldozed through a bunch of headlines, cherry picked a bunch of headlines, and then formed my opinion without real analysis, which is the thing that we warn you guys against. But I was doing it just to get a list out for you guys of potentially good news out there because we didn't really get to it last week. Um, you know, so I don't know. I thought it was important to just kind of get through some cool, weird, interesting stuff. The squid clothing. I say squid clothing, but temperature control clothing. I think we have already some kind of form of it, but like, could you imagine like an advanced form of it? That would be
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Like I specifically run at this temperature and it can hold that temperature. That would be sick.
I wonder
Um,
what the long-term effects of that are. For example, like you never have to sweat. You're always perfectly at the right temperature for your body. What happens then if that's not something that our bodies think we necessarily need? It's wild to think about. Like, have you heard of wet bulb temperature?
no,
Oh, you're gonna find this really interesting. I didn't until last summer. So, um, there's two ways to take temperature. So one is the typical you look to your left, right, wherever the temperature gauge is, and then you read off the temperature. That's dry bulb temperature. But now there's something, or there has always been something called wet bulb temperature, which is you stick the whatever you're reading it with, the thermometer.
thermometer.
Yeah, you put it in water, and so what that is it's measuring. I'm going to butcher this, but it's essentially measuring what the actual temperature of the air is in true humidity. And so when you hear about all these people, I never knew this, but when you hear about all these people who are having a hard time in the heat, or you're having those heat waves where they are literally warning you not to go outside, or when you have places like India where people unfortunately are passing away, um, it's more so because of the wet bulb temperature, because there's a certain point where there's so much humidity in the air, there's so much moisture that you sweating doesn't make a difference. And so you can't
That's
actually
wild.
cool yourself off. And I never knew that. I always like wondered. I'm like, well, we can sweat, so no matter how hot it gets, like I'm sure you can get a heat stroke, but I can't like it was hard for me to conceptualize why people would be dying like that. It's because of wet bulb temperature. You literally can't cool yourself off. And that to me was a wild concept when I was doing some research on it.
That is pretty wild. That is pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right. I feel awful. I feel like I'm dying. I have been trying not to cough this entire time. And I want to. So we're gonna go ahead and put a hard stop here. I guess my question for you all, um, my challenge for you all, because it's not just a question; it's a challenge. What good news are you finding in your life? I don't know if I said that last week.
Yeah, you did.
Um,
It's
I
okay.
did.
We can reuse it.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I will come up with a new question because I want to ask a new question every week.
Okay.
Um, I did. I do remember asking
Yeah.
that. Oh, I'm ashamed of myself. Dang.
It's only
What
because I
a
had to type the questions into our
what a
video
bum.
summary.
What a bum. Um, okay. My question is, if you were feeling healthy and not sick, like me, I don't know. I'm gonna let you ask your question. I'm gonna think about my question.
Okay. Well, I just got my question. So, we talked about some discoveries, right? There was the seed, there was the Picasso painting, there was the Mozart song or symphony that was discovered. If you could discover something that was back in time and bring it forward as like a good news article, what would you want your discovery to be?
Man, I'm gonna take the cheap road out here, and I'm gonna do the exact opposite.
Oh my
Exact
gosh.
opposite of what you're saying. If you could predict some good news to come, um, what would you want to see? I guess that's not the same as the last week. But what would you want to see in terms of like good being done in the world? And I almost wonder if I have to qualify a little bit because
Yeah.
there I feel like what we read, the list that I read today, not all of it is good news as much as it's good feeling news, right? It's stuff that for the most part very easy palatable to like feel the warm fuzzies that say "aw" or "cool," whatever. But if you could create your own good news, whatever you as a reporter were to report on in the future, and it just was true, what would that be? Um, I think mine would be uh, cat girls are out and about, and they are taking. I don't even know. I don't know where I was going with that. Cat girls. There we go. That's gonna be my good news. They exist. Um,
Cat girls.
cat girls. Yeah.
Cat
Um,
girls.
Not a furry, by the way. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm
That's what
not.
I was thinking.
Yeah, no. I'm not a furry. There's like a whole scale, and I'm nowhere near any of that. I'm good. But I just think cat ears are cute, and the cat tail is cute.
So you
Um,
want anamorphic humans. Like what was that
I
book
don't.
series? Metamorphosis
Animorphs.
or something?
Animorphs. Straight
Animorphs.
up.
There you
Yeah.
go.
No, I do not. I just want cat girls. I don't. I feel like I'm good on everything. Everything else. All other types of weird mix ups. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Um,
Okay.
like, have you seen those mermaids where it's a fish head and a human body?
No.
Yeah. I'm really okay.
Sorry, that was out of all the things, I don't know, I wasn't expecting that one. Oh.
You gotta be careful what you wish for. I'm gonna be very specific, cat girls. That's
Okay.
I don't I don't
Okay.
I don't want any other types. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. So what do you want the world to make real? You know what? Real one, legit one, not just some fucking excuse me, excuse my lady. I'm sick. Um a real one.
I already
I
know.
you know
Mhm. Well, it
what is it?
depends on,
What's
like,
your
the scale we're going with, but if you were saying, um, that everywhere
real?
in the world has a really sustainable
Oh, you're so
way.
kind, but I'm so selfish. I'm so much more selfish than you give me credit for.
Well, it's
Um,
a but, like, way of building where we're almost like there's already places that are kinda doing this, but, like, Xcaret in Mexico comes to mind because, like, instead of tearing down the jungle to make this theme park, they built into the jungle, and so, like,
oh,
you
that's pretty
actually
fire. That's really
Yeah.
cool, actually.
Yeah.
Like, see,
So, like,
that's a
things like
news article I would click on. Like,
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's
But, like,
cool.
things like that where I just want that sustainability for both the environment and, like, it's unrealistic to think that we're not going to expand as humans, but I feel a certain way about it, and it just makes me very sad that we're not at the point where we can coexist in a mutually beneficial way for each. So
Mine is just going to be the expansion of this, brain implants that let us connect
Mm,
with the internet. Like again,
mhm.
um, I've said it with you in conversations, but if I could fracture my identity into multiple different pieces and have each of those pieces exist and go out into the internet and kind of explore and have fun, learn, be debaucherous. I think I would absolutely love to do that. Like if I could, I don't know, make the internet real in terms of even just the idea, the concept of like video games or like existing in anime universes or like I don't know, flying through the stars or building an entire civilization and man, there's so many like it's just the space on the internet is kind of endless. You know what I mean? Which
Mhm.
means the possibilities are endless.
Mhm.
So I think
That
it would be really cool.
that would be really interesting, like, if everyone something to think about, would we need to heal ourselves at that point if each person had that chip in themselves and could fracture themselves doing different things, like
There's gotta be a movie in regards to it, but like
yeah,
Adventure Time kind of approached it. Like I'm sure I don't know if you remember where BMO was connected to to all the
this
people who
this
were all on
supercomputer.
VR. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they were like they were all in their like little pods and stuff,
Mhm.
and like the town was like old and dusty, and BMO was just the coolest moderator.
Mhm.
Um, it'd be interesting to see. I personally think I'm sure it would be scary, but sign me up. I'm down for the whole new world.
Well, I was just thinking about, because if you can fracture yourself and do different things simultaneously, I have to imagine that most people would take one of version of themselves and want to do good somehow. And so I I wonder
Um,
if there would be a tipping point where there's there's not anything good left to do. But by that I mean like people to help in terms of mental health or animals to adopt or like if this was a concept in our reality where you could literally do this. It's just
I
something interesting to think about. Like would we be in such dire straits or could each person literally just help themselves at that point? Food for thought.
yeah, I think that's something I'm all over. For
Mm,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
mm,
Anyway, what do you people want to see in the future? If you were writing that news article, what would that news article be about? What is the
mhm,
change that you want to see? And then let's figure out how to, take actionable, reasonable steps
mhm.
towards those futures.
And
As
keep
for me,
discovering things.
yeah, I'm just gonna keep my eyes open and look out for that Tesla, or not Tesla, but
The
that
chip.
link saying I can sign up. Um. Anyway, we've kind of droned on here past the mark. So, with everything that is said, you guys know the drill. Just dive into everything that you're doing here.
Head first, face
Face
down.
down, and be good.
All right. See you guys later. Love you lots.
All right, bye.